Hello, welcome. This is Laura Adrian, the social media strategist with the Park Bugle, and today we are doing a special live Q&A with a photographer based in St. Anthony Park. His name is Carl Stover, and today we're going to learn a little bit about his story. So if you have any questions right off the bat, I encourage you to share them in the comments below and we'll get to as many as we can. So I will do some announcements for the time being. So what's new with the Park Bugle? You may have found in the March issue, there is a coupon, a coupon for 25% off at Dogwood Coffee. So that's very exciting for coffee lovers. And I think if I remember correctly, it's for their live shop, their new shop, which is on University Avenue. So what else do we have going on for the Park Bugle? Well, you can always submit events at theparkbugle.org. So if you have a community event coming up, you can submit it on the parkbugle.org website, and you just click submit an event in the upper left hand corner and then follow the prompts. Just a second. I'm doing some tech stuff. Yeah, so welcome. If you're just joining us here, we have Carl today with us, who is a photographer in St. Anthony Park. Yay! I'm glad the technology worked.
It
Um,
was a nail biter there for a minute.
Same. We practiced yesterday and thought we had it down, but I think I'm just not getting great service right now. I'm gonna blame it on myself. Well, I'm so glad we got it to work. Welcome, and I like to make sure I pronounce people's names correctly. How do you say your last name? Is it Stover?
Yep.
Okay.
Nobody's ever
So welcome,
nobody's ever
Carl
mispronounced it.
Stover. So for those of us who are new here, we are doing these live Q&As with the Park Bugle. I'm Laura Adrian, the Park Bugle social media strategy. We got a grant from the St. Anthony Park Community Foundation to do these. And this is our second one. So it has been so fun to do these interviews and get to know some community leaders in the Bugleland area. So welcome, Carl, to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm calling from California. My wife and I are we're spending 3 months over the winter here in California this year, and this is our 5th year here. And I'll give you a quick tour. So it's a cloudy, it's a rainy day here, unusual. So we got the Pacific Ocean here, and then we got a salt marsh back here with lots of interesting nature. And it's
Nice.
almost always sunny here, but not today.
Nice. Well, yeah. So I have a few questions for Carl, and if you're listening live, feel free to write questions in the chat, and if we have enough time, we will definitely get to them and get your questions answered. So, Carl, could you tell people what it is you do in your business, Sapphire Photography? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you work
So
with? What is it? Oh, what is it all that you do? What goes into being a photographer?
yeah, so I'm a people photographer. So have done a vast array of different people photography jobs. So for the people who might be listening today, the sort of things that they might be interested in is I spend a lot of time doing families and new graduates and couples and babies and maternity. And then on the business side of things, I always also, like, I'm a photographer for 2 or 3 departments at the University of Minnesota, um, and do business things and events and some weddings. Though I think I'm retiring from weddings, but I got one last one here in June. And I've got a studio on Carter Avenue right across from College Park, and that's been really nice. I've been enjoying. It gives me the opportunity to do some hybrid shoots where we can do some shots in College Park, which is really nice right at sunset. We got sun filtering through the trees, and then we can just walk a couple hundred feet to my studio and we can do some shots there. So that's been really nice. And I'm a retired scientist from 3M, so I worked there for 30 years. I got a PhD in chemical engineering, and I ended up doing a lot of optical physics there. And so I've been retired from that for almost 3 years. Actually, 3 years yesterday. Yeah. And so I do the photography maybe like half time. And I've noticed that nobody really wants photos in January and February, March, and so we feel confident to be here then. And I'm doing photography here also.
Nice.
So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, so we have something in common. We both worked at 3M. I double majored in chemistry and environmental science, and one of my jobs early out of college was at 3M R&D in the renewable energy division. So that's kind of fun. So how did you get started in photography? Did you do that? Did you just start once you retired, or is that something that you got interested in early on?
Yeah, great question. So I got started in photography as a kid. So my brother was a genius at figuring out interesting things to do because we were kind of trapped at the end of a street and didn't circulate in the community much. But we uh, figured out how to do aerial photographs, like sending up cameras in helium balloons and taking photos of our neighborhood. And we built a darkroom from scratch, and we used to process our film, and we actually even processed color film, which is kind of an advanced thing for those days. And
Wow.
we would make our own pinhole cameras and process the film. And I remember we would like set up a camera on a tripod next to a bird feeder, and then we would, back in those days, you didn't have you couldn't remote
Yeah.
trigger a camera, so we had a mechanical cable going back to the house where we'd be hiding, and you'd activate the camera that way. So we didn't do a lot of people pictures. We were just kind of interested in the technology. We're both uh, engineer types. And then when I had kids, like when I was 30-ish, the obviously taking a lot of photos of kids and people, and then got into doing sports photography for the
Mm.
kids, which was, if you're not good with small talk, it's a good way to keep busy during soccer games. And after photographing many soccer games, I realized that I really kind of like photographing people, and you can get a lot of good drama between the different teams, and it's interesting. And I ended up taking a lot of pictures of people on the sidelines and getting satisfaction out of that. And then about 10 years ago, I started getting more serious about it and figuring out some of the things you need to do to take good pictures of people. And that's when I started like taking pictures of people I didn't know and charging for it. So I've been doing it pretty serious now for about 10 years. So most of that was while I was still working, but the kids were mostly out of the house by then. And I've probably done something like 600 or 700 photo shoots since then.
Mhm.
A incredible array of different things. Um, uh, you know, the I did a Hindu bar mitzvah the last year, and a lot of interesting, surprise proposals. Here's the third. Actually, the only surprise proposal I've ever done. I've done a bunch of proposals, but the only surprise proposal I've ever done was I was at Lake Como for a family shoot in the middle of winter. So we were going to be on the frozen lake, and I got there a little early, and I saw a couple walking up to the lake, and they were dressed really nice, and I said, "Hey, do you want a free photo?" And the guy was like all in right away. Oh yeah, yeah, right. And then about 2 seconds later, he drops down to one knee and starts to propose, and I'm shooting photos, and he looks over his shoulder after a few seconds and says, "She said yes. She said yes." So yeah, so
That's really funny. That's great. So, so I'm curious. Well, you kind of talked about this already about how like your interest in science and engineering helped you understand, like how to process the photos and kind of engineer these really interesting setups. Um, so how do you see your background as a scientist impacting your creative process as a photographer? Or is it more that photography is like this creative outlet you do to help you like feel balanced
yeah, so it's
or something
it's both.
else?
Yeah, so it's both. I understand a lot of the science of optics and photography, and I understand kind of how your brain processes images, and so that helps me figure out how to do things. I got a gut feel for how a lot of this works. A lot of photographers have been doing this a long time. They don't necessarily understand the science of what they're doing, but they've done it enough that they have rules of thumb. They know if I do this, it's going to look like this, and it'll make me happy. Whereas I kind of understand I understand a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of what's going on physically, and so it saves me a little. It helps me out certainly to understand the science, and kind of a hobby of mine is to be able to look at a picture that somebody's taken somewhere in the world that's very interesting, and I can look at it and just figure out how they did it. Where it's would be challenging. That's a challenge for anybody to do. Um, but then you mentioned the creative aspect of this, so I do a lot of creative stuff, and I find that very interesting, and I always kind of love it when people look at a picture of mine and say, you took that. And so and the processing the photos in the computer is at least half of what I do, and so that gives I don't really like to watch TV so much, and so that gives me something to while away the evenings uh, and creating some art. And for me, it's a lot like I'll go to a photo shoot and I'll take a bunch of pictures, and I will know that some of them are really good when I'm taking them because I can see them when I'm taking them. But you haven't totally processed everything that you've done during the shoot. But then when I get back later and look at it on the computer and playing around with them a little bit, it's like I always think of it as like panning for gold, where I get some really gold nuggets that I didn't really realize I had taken at the time, maybe. But then those are the ones that please the people the most that I deliver.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And I I dabble. Well, okay, first of all, your photos, more than anyone I've really seen, are like really unique and are kind of like some of them just make me smile or laugh. I'll see if I can post some in the comments after this. But they're like, there's one of like a baby that looks like it's hanging on a wall, and it's just like really fun, creative photos. Yeah. So, so what is the most unique photo shoot you did? Is there one that stands out as like, oh, that was really interesting or challenging or had a surprising moment? I know you mentioned the one about the surprise engagement. That one sounds fun.
Well, yeah, that's kind of a tough, that's a tricky question because I've done so many different things. Uh, the I will say it's like shooting families in Minnesota. Um, you're not gonna get something that's really cutting edge so much because that's not really what they're looking for. Um, but one area that you can do some creative stuff that people are all for is a lot of seniors doing sports photography. Like I'll do a senior shoot for them, and then at the end, when the sun's mostly set, I'll get the mom to like make smoke in the background, and I'll set up the lights to look extremely dramatic, and we'll get them with their lacrosse gear on, and we can get some really dramatic stuff that way. And the new grads seem to be really into that.
That
Um,
sounds fun.
yeah, and so I don't know. It's more of a creative thing. Like a couple weeks ago, I was in Los Angeles, and I was in a studio where we have rain coming down inside, and shooting a subject, shooting a subject with rain actively coming down, and that was very interesting.
Wow. Did you have an umbrella for
Yep.
that? Like, because whenever
Oh
I
yeah.
try to shoot it in the rain, it makes it makes it look blurry or
Yeah. Well,
something.
I wasn't in the
Oh,
rain. The
oh, okay.
the
That
person I was photographing was.
okay, that solves the mystery.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, what are some photos that you've taken that you've liked? What do you like to take pictures of?
Oh, me? Well, okay, so I have a business, Whole Life Elevation. So it's like about nature retreats and mindfulness in nature.
Oh,
So I'm always trying to take photos in nature and of just like, I try to do something unique like that. I mean, that's like my goal, like something that you would only notice if you were paying attention. And so that would sometimes it's like a really interesting fungi or like the pattern of bark on a tree.
Neat.
And well, so I actually, so got, I just have an iPhone 8, and I took the photography class at the iPhone store, and I just learned a few things, and then I watched like one YouTube video, and it did help me make more interesting photos. Like I think my photos went to like average to like being a little above average. Do you have any tips for us like iPhone photographers? Me, I don't
Well,
know if you have any right off the top of your
well,
head,
I'll
but
tell you a couple.
for what makes
I'll
an
tell you a couple.
interesting photo or how to capture a good photo.
I'll tell you a rule of thumb. Um, that if you're taking a picture of a person, a dog, a baby, you need to get down at their level, folks.
Mm,
Don't don't be standing over people and taking pictures of them. You're going to do way better if you're down at their level. You're going to get a better background. You're going to get more engaging photo. Um, and you're rarely going to take a great picture if you're sitting in a chair. It's an active sport. You gotta play around and figure out what background you want and how to compose. And of course, it takes a lot of practice.
yeah, yeah. For those of us just joining, we are talking with Carl Stover, and I invite you to drop any questions you have in the chat, and we'll see if we can answer them. So
Um, and I think you've got the link to my website in the invite. Is that right? Or in the
I did,
somewhere? Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I encourage people to take a look at that, so you can see a lot of different genre I do of people photography.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. With any creative process, um, there are like little lessons sometimes we learn, and I I'm actually in the process of writing a book, and I learned a lot of lessons there. Just a lot about like just a little bit every day, and just not to be not to be too hard of a perfectionist on myself, and a few things like that. Are there any lessons you've learned on your journey as a photographer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So uh, one of the things that I've slowly figured out as I've been going on this journey is that it is how to communicate with people better while I'm photographing. So my wife's been to a few photo shoots over the years, and she points out that when I started, I was so focused on the technology that I was not communicating with people fully. And now I can be doing the most complicated thing and troubleshooting stuff that's breaking and all this, and I can be talking to people and giving them feedback on what to do and telling them jokes and that's something that you have to be at it for a while to be able to do. And so one thing, a little bit about my brand. So a lot of photographers uh, are going to show up with their camera and take pictures of you. And if you look at my photos, they're a little more over the top and more, more perfect than, more like magazine quality than other photographers are taking. And that's because I'm carrying light. I'm carrying a light on a light stand for a lot of these shoots. And so it adds a extra level of complexity and so you get some absolutely stunning photos, but it also might constrain things a little bit. And so of course, so for a typical shoot, we're going to do a bunch of candids too. So we try to mix it up. But so that's an extra level complication that maybe in my early years of doing this, I wasn't able to really take care of the subjects as well as I can now. Um, and so I've had just about everything that can break has broken during a shoot, and so I know I carry backups of all the things that have broken in the past. So
That's that's nice. I feel like there's a follow-up question I was going to ask, but it might have slipped my mind. Well, if you're just joining us, we're taking questions from the audience, so feel free to drop a question in the chat. Oh yeah. So yeah, I was just gonna say that yeah, like mastering the craft is one thing, and then working with people is like a totally different skill. That's kind of an art on its own. So that's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
That
and let me say something about that. Is that there are lots and lots of people who like taking pictures and who get very serious about it. And it's especially true with three hip scientists. There's a bunch of people who have taken it to a very high level. But the number of people who enjoy taking pictures of people, it's a pretty small subset of that. Um, and I find that interesting, and it's a lot of people are not excited about dealing with all the people aspects of it. And personally, I find it kind of cool because I have never met somebody before. We meet, and then 5 minutes later, we're working on an art project together. And I find that a great way to kind of knock down walls and get to know people. I bumping into people all over town, even here in California, that I've taken pictures of, and I find it really rewarding. And then I've got all my 3M nerd friends who like to take pictures of dragonflies and birds and things like that, and they are deathly afraid of taking pictures of people.
yeah, I did one photo shoot for my business, and I did feel like I was changed from the process just because of being a co-creator of the photo shoot, and just like, oh, what about this, and then like the person will suggest stuff. So it is definitely a creative process and different when you do it with people.
Yeah,
um
and it's a perfect opportunity for improv. So whenever anybody suggests anything, there's always some good in every suggestion that anybody's going to make, and then you just have to figure out where the good is, and then put your spin on it. And so I love feedback from people or ideas that they might have before a shoot. Um, the uh, the the thing that photographers don't like is getting absolutely no idea of what they're getting into. For instance, I do a lot of new high school graduation shoots, and a lot of times you get nothing from the parents about whether this child really wants to be doing this photo shoot or not. And 9 times out of 10, they're all in, very excited. But very occasionally, you'll get somebody who did not want to be there or something like that. That can be a problem. Um, so I'm always trying to get people to communicate with me as much as they are willing prior to shoot, so I know I can figure out what's going to be best for them.
Yeah, we did get a question from one of our viewers. And also, if anyone else has a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. So Helen, she's um, the head of the board of directors on the Park Bugle. She asks, what is the most challenging thing about family photos? What would you say?
Well, it varies from group to group. Some you get some families that are all in and pretty comfortable in front of the cameras, and then you get some families. It's typically the father who is like didn't want to be there. He's grumpy. So it's hard to generalize, but I would say that trying to keep things uh, short and sweet for the families. And you might think that I would be the one who'd be trying to wrap things up, but it's the opposite. I would be like wanting to shoot for longer, and and I need to figure out how to get all the cool shots that I want to get. Um, and keep things short and sweet for the family. And I think maybe early on in my career I was not able to do that. Now I have a sixth sense for when the kids are done now, and a lot of times I have to tell the parents that yeah, I have to say, they're done, and we need to wrap.
Yeah. So, um, I noticed you have a lot of shots of babies, some adorable ones, one in a tub, and then a few, yeah, like the one on hanging on a clothesline, and a few others. Are those particularly difficult too, or do you just have to wait till the baby's in the right mood?
Yeah, you take a bunch of shots. The good thing about, my favorite age for taking shots of babies is at 1 year old, because they are old enough that they are doing everything. So they're doing some walking, they're doing all kinds of crawling, they're everywhere. They're very engaging. They like to look at people and get a reaction. You can you can you can dress them up in cute outfits. You can give them a bath. Um, the so I love the 1 year age, and they're very patient. You can take a ton of pictures of them, and so my secret power of taking good baby pictures is taking a lot of shots and then panning for gold later and picking out the good ones. And so I really like doing like a 1 year old photo shoot in the studio with we'll get a birthday cake and have them dive into it. It's pretty darn funny. Um, and yeah.
Nice. Um, well, it's been so awesome to do this interview. Thank you for taking the time to connect with us and share your stories and interesting knowledge about photography with the Park Bugle audience. How can people connect with you to learn more about what you do?
Yeah.
What
So
would
I
you share your
think
website, your social media, or any other ways where people can learn more about you?
yeah. So I think you've got my face. You might have my Facebook, my business Facebook on your invite. I see my wife just commented with my website. So there's a contact sheet on my website, or you can send me a message in my business Facebook, and I'll be back in town April 1st, and April might be good for studio shoots, but the best time for outdoor shoots is May through October, and till don't wait till October because that gets booked up. Let's get out there in June, July, and August and take some photos. And please, let's not do our senior shoots in late November. Let's get them done before that.
They're best in the summer when you have a
Yeah,
tan. That's what my mom told me.
yeah, and yeah, I want to. I've taken too many graduate photos of kids at like January 25th, and they're freezing cold
Oh.
outside. So yeah, May through October, we'll get some great shots.
Yes. Well, thanks. Thank you so much again for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you back in St. Anthony Park in April.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
All right. Bye.